to What is Going Ohm's Synchronize Your Energies, the show that provides clear insights into the rapidly shifting energies that are upgrading human consciousness and evolving life on planet Earth. Each month, hosts Sandie Sedgbeer, Suzy Miller, and Lee Harris share their observations and awarenesses and offer a stable means of synchronizing your energy fields so you can thrive, not just survive during these tumultuous times. Here's your hosts, Sandie Sedgbeer, Suzy Miller, and Lee Harris.
Hello, I'm Sandie Sedgbeer.
I'm Lee Harris.
And I'm Suzy Miller.
And you're listening to the December 2019 edition of Synchronize Your Energies, which was actually recorded on Friday, December the 13th. So for those of you listening live on the 26th or later, Christmas has come and gone. For the rest of us, for all of us, Boris Johnson is in, Brexit is on, Donald Trump's still the CEO of the USA, and the two most serious and coldest planets, Saturn and Pluto, are just 2 weeks away from meeting in what promises to be a powerful moment of convergence and reckoning for the world and for us as individuals. And that's not all, as they say, because closer to home, we have an even bigger piece of news for you. But I'm going to let Lee deliver that.
So this is going to be our final show as a trio. So Sandie will still be doing her show, but this is going to be our last Synchronize Your Energies show as a trio. And we're all going to miss it, but at the same time, we all have different things that we're about to funnel our energy into in 2020. So thank you to all of you who've been with us this year, because we've really loved doing it. But it feels like we have to now go and rebirth into something else.
Just like the rest of us. Do you want to add anything to that, Suzy?
No, it's really been a lovely time, spending all this time with both of you and with the audience. Sharing ideas, and I'm excited to see what's coming for 2020 for everybody.
Well, that's a huge piece of news, bigger than all the rest that, I've said before it, as far as I'm concerned. But then it's all about me anyway. But it's been an interesting year of ups and downs, and I am reminded now as we feel this energy moving, especially the Saturn-Pluto that's driving everything, all of these things that are happening in the world is all being driven by that as far as I'm concerned. And I'm reminded of what Carl Callerman said to me in an interview a few years ago. He's the expert on the Mayan calendar, and he mentioned that we've come to the end of the long night in the Mayan calendar, which is a 400-year period in which the West rose to power. And now all of that power is going to start swinging to the East. So it's really interesting to look at what that might possibly bode. I'm sure the two of you have got some insights to share, but before we do that, let's have a little, update on what the last month has been like for both of you.
Well, so one of the things that I've really noticed in my personal life and people I'm speaking to, just an enormous amount of upheaval and what I would call death transformation energy. So I remember doing an energy update back in October and saying that there would be a lot of unexpected, sometimes shocking, sometimes explosive events. And it was interesting then to walk through October and see how that took place. But in a way, that continued through November. So, I've got several family members going through all kinds of stuff right now, and also newly, just even this past week, things kicking off and popping open. So it's just this massive amount of change and turmoil going on for a lot of people around me, which is interesting. I mean, I would say just personally, I'm beginning to understand more viscerally the messages that the Z's, my guides, have said for the last few years, which is look after your own light and look after your own balance and look after your own self-care so that you can be a lighthouse for others in the years to come, and that more of us are going to be called to be that. And it's interesting because I definitely don't think, for me personally, any of us are ever only holding space for others. I think we're all going through our personal process. We're all going through an evolution.
It just felt like it was deepening. It's like, it was almost like one opportunity after another. I thought November was really the crux of this, but, right through December, too, I feel like this is probably going to continue, and has, at least up to this point, where it's just, take a look at this, take a look at that. Here are some of the strategies that you've used your whole life in order to, whether it was feel safe or whether it was to bring something forth in the world. Here's the strategies that you used. And it's almost like reevaluating every single one of those strategies and seeing, does that work for me now? And reevaluating it based on, I don't know, it's like taking, I almost feel like I've gone through, okay, this is the information you hold in the crown chakra. This is the information you hold in the third eye. But now this is the information that you hold in the sacral chakra, dark and light. This is the energy and the information in the root chakra, dark and light. And, these are the strategies that have come out of that and the way it's been held to date. How would you like to, move forward with that? So it's been a fairly reclusive month for me. I know I kind of go into my own space when I'm in one of these processes. And at the same time, it's like I'm watching, as I kind of dig into those places, I'm watching the outer landscape reflect that something has changed. It's like whether it's a new opportunity or whether it's, somebody showing up who I haven't had the opportunity to interface with before, and I'm really feeling like a match. It's like that's the way, to me, it feels like it's showing up in my outer landscape. And it's been a deep dive. I won't say it's been a comfortable one by any stretch, but it's been, I like what's being reflected back, having gifted myself with that process. So.
Cool. Well, I'm probably not in such a happy place as you, Suzy. I am definitely squirming at times as I am being given opportunities to look at myself, to go within, to, dig out some of the crap that's still in there. It seems to be bottomless. So it's interesting because, it's been a very reflective month for me. I mentioned a few months ago having an experience of a friend that I'd had for God knows how many years. Seems like forever. Suddenly, realising that we were done. And I've had quite a little lineup of those, one after the other, people kind of exiting my orbit, so to speak. And obviously, the first thing we do is we take it very personally and we think, oh, what have I done or whatever, create our stories around it. When, as somebody pointed out to me yesterday, it really is, the energy is no longer flowing the way it did. And it's time to recognise that and just let that one go and move on. Just like, when you move out of orbit with any particular kind of energy that no longer influences you. So, I'm coming to terms with that and just watching what comes up for me and the different modes, the different emotions that come around it, and doing my best to stand back at a distance rather than engage in them and take them all seriously.
I can so relate to this, Sandie, because you and I've talked about this quite a bit, but I feel like this has been my life experience. I feel like, I don't know if this is true for the two of you as well, but it does feel to me anyway like life has almost had like these segments of and those segments have a certain energetic template. They have a certain, there are certain energetics being worked out and worked through, and those energetics require certain people in our lives, certain types of people, certain reflections back to us, so that we can get to those nitty-gritty places that we probably wouldn't look at otherwise, all those beautiful blessings that come with these different iterations of people. But it does feel like, last 10 years even, it's like just like a little piece of work will be done, and then it's a whole group of people that disappear and new people kind of show up, and then there's, the mainstays like you and Lee, it's like, and that opportunity to kind of have these reflective conversations and witnessing the moving of each other, honoring the movement of each other. And also, it's just, for me anyway, watching all of these different people and experiences just kind of, die away and then sometimes come back and sometimes not. So,
I love listening to both of you, because it's funny, as I'm listening to you both, I'm like, oh yeah, Suzy, I've had a bit of that too. And then I listen to you, Sandie, and it's like, oh yeah, I've had a bit. So it's just, something just hit me, like right before we came onto this call, a team member of mine just wanted to run something by me in some of the work we put out. And there's a quote that I've actually kept here on the screen. And it's from my guide's disease. It's an MP3 recording that went out this month. And it says, the great illusion of humanity is that what you say to each other is what helps you communicate. It is actually what you beam to each other energetically that is the communication. You only use words to make those connections safe. And so I don't know whether it's the words you're saying or whether it's just that we're in vibrational connection with each other, listening to each other. But the one thing that hit me, Sandie, about what you were saying about rearranging relationships is, for me personally, there's kind of like a tsunami in my family right now that was already kind of raging in one area, and it's just kind of gone up 10 notches with a couple of other family members. And I was reminded how we reform ourselves drastically when the relationship formations that we're in move and change around us. Not necessarily towards, because I wasn't directly involved in any of these things, but I was like, oh yeah, this is changing all of our family dynamic, which is also in turn going to be changing me, and like which came first, chicken or the egg kind of thing.
Do you know, you're so right, actually. I hadn't even thought about that aspect. But yes, every time, it's like the planets swirling around one another. Every time they kind of change direction or spin out or something, everything has to rearrange itself, including us. And you're absolutely right. I hadn't even thought about that aspect with regard to myself.
No, and it's funny, isn't it? Because I also know that vibrationally we change inside, and then our outside changes. So that's what I mean by the chicken or the egg, like which comes first? Is it the person who walks away from us, or is it that who we have become is no longer aligned with that person, so they have to walk away?
Yeah. Yeah. It is so interesting. And, I've been thinking quite a bit about what lies ahead, because we really are in for some enormous change. And unlike anything we've ever experienced. And I was thinking back to when I was a kid and what life, on average looked like. And for most people, there was a huge amount of stability in terms of at least having, staying within the environment where you grew up, staying around your family, having the same people in your life from school and work throughout your entire life. And we don't have that anymore. As you said, Suzy, and as you and I have often talked about, it's like every 10 years, everything changes, and it's a whole other game that we're playing with different people, different characters, different environments.
Absolutely, and I also think that we're we can feel and sense the big changes that are coming and have already taken place, definitely into 2020. And, and I often am looking at that now from this perspective of, instead of looking out as to what is changing in the outer landscape, really taking a nice deep look at what has changed in the inner landscape. It's like we were just on, I was just doing the Avatar Energetics call this morning with a group of people, and, we were just talking about this energetic presence that has really started to consciously arise within each one of us. And it's almost like recognizing that energy as the foundation, somehow kind of makes it feel safer, not quite as chaotic in stepping into really whatever's next. Because, whatever's next, outside of our connection to ourselves, it's going to bounce us around, right? It's going to move us all over the place. And I don't know, I feel like this, especially this last quarter of 2019, I think that's why it's kind of forcing us or pushing us to feel feelings that we probably haven't usually felt, and or to look at ourselves in ways that we maybe haven't looked before. I think it's very purposeful. I think it's helping us get grounded into our own presence, grounded into the inner landscape instead of being dictated to by the outer landscape.
Good point, Suzy. On that note, we're going to go to break. You're listening to What Is Going On's monthly Synchronize Your Energies show with me, Sandie Sedgbeer.
With me, Lee Harris.
And with Suzy Miller, who may have already gone for a break.
I already went to break.
And we'll be back with more on what the cosmic energies are currently stirring up for all of us after this break.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organisation, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at omtimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
911, what is your emergency?
My kid shot himself.
All right, where's the wounds?
911, what's your emergency?
Please help, my son shot his brother. 911, what is your emergency? Okay. 911, please state your emergency.
Every day, 8 kids and teens are unintentionally killed or injured by loaded and unlocked guns.
It wasn't locked.
Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and End Family Fire.
Welcome back to Synchronize Your Energies with me, Sandie Sedgbeer.
With me, Lee Harris.
And me, Suzy Miller.
Now, there you are, Suzy. Good to have you back.
I'm back. I'm back.
You know, as you were talking before the break, Suzy, I was reminded about something you said to me this time last year. And I can't remember what was going on then. Can't remember what was going on last week. But you were saying that the last 3 months of the year, we seem to be integrating everything that we've experienced in the first 9 months. And so that is always a kind of pivotal reflective time.
Absolutely. And I think I noticed it, like I would say 5 years ago, honestly, I noticed that like the last 3 months of every year were just intensifying. And and I was noticing it in my physical body. Usually, I would have some weird illness the last 3 months of the year, and then come January, it would all, reboot and everything would start again. But it was almost like all the information or all the energy that we had processed, interfaced with, come to grips with or tried to during that first 9 months, it was specifically almost like moving through our physical bodies in that last in those last 3 months. And if it wasn't moving through our physical bodies, it might be moving through the physical bodies in the people out and around us. I know occasionally I would also kind of witness that, this is the time where everybody got sick, or this is the time where there would be that big news, like Lee was saying about, things going on in his family. It's like this is the time in this kind of last quarter where it just kind of seems like it all gets anchored in the body. It's like the body's now asking to move it out, and it's not always an easy. Not always easy. And for me, anyway, these last 5 years, the last 3 months of those have been okay. Here it comes again. More like that awareness. So, yeah, deep physical change too, and you can almost feel it in the cells. And I had a woman call me the other day, and she was like the third person, so she really got my attention this time. She was talking about the fact that some of the experiences she's having right now is like literally like this buzzing in the body. She's been a fairly grounded person, and all of a sudden, challenging to really feel like she's on the planet. Heightened sensory kinds of experiences, and I couldn't help but notice that. Well, this is very much like some of our energetically sensitive children, and a lot of people are, I would say, almost evolving to that or evolving through that right now.
Yeah.
So their physical bodies are picking it up that way as well.
It also strikes me that... Oh, sorry, go ahead, Sandie.
No, you go ahead, please, Lee.
I was just going to say that one of the things that came up, I did a 2020 annual energy update last night, and one of the things that came through as a theme for next year and in the coming years is the problems with our unnatural world right now. So technology and EMS, all of those kinds of things, but how the imbalances that we've got going on in the planet, around those things are going to have to be rebalanced in the years to come. Because for some people it will be sensitivity where they're evolving, and for others it will be interference that's not allowing them to ground on the planet in the way that we used to be able to.
Well, it's interesting. The feeling, and I'm absolutely with you, Suzy. I think we are all becoming much more energetically sensitive. But what's going on, astrology aside, how it's affecting people is what interests me. And yesterday, as it happened, England went to the polls in our time frame, not a few weeks ago, if anyone's listening to this later. But it so happened that Alison Chester-Lambert called me while I was driving. And so I couldn't resist the opportunity to say, so come on, Alison, what do you think's going to happen today? Who's going to win? And she said, I'm standing by Boris. And she told me why she was standing by Boris. And, part of what she said is that the fact is that not only is the astrology working towards a transformation of old infrastructures and bringing down all the formal institutions that cannot best serve the future, but she said that there is a strong desire for freedom. and a need to break free of all restrictions. And this is what is, carrying Boris over the line. This is what is happening with all the people that are voting for Trump, that it's not necessarily those personalities or what those personalities stand for, but it is this incredible feeling that people have had before of feeling weakened, and that the political system was stagnating and disintegrating and making people feel powerless. But them having their voice by voting for Trump and voting for Boris and militating for change, is helping them to feel as though they've got power again. And I thought, that is a really interesting way to look at it.
That makes so much sense to me.
Yeah, I think that it really strikes a chord with me, that people have felt powerless for many years. And as we've seen things begin to go, I don't know, again, which comes first, chicken or egg, but as we've seen things going in a different direction, with more power going to, the elite, I think more people feel powerless, and therefore they're more ready to do radical things, including, radicalism, as well as just, I'm not going to vote my usual way. I'm going to go for something else. Interesting.
And I feel like what we're also sensing in all of this, newfound freedom, if you will, or this opportunity to express ourselves in ways that we might not have expressed before is, there are definitely growing pains associated with that freedom. It's like it's one thing to have either been conditioned to abdicate our power to some external authority. I think that, and there's a difference between that energy and the energy of, and the willingness to actually own our own internal authority. And I think that there is a huge dance and a huge opportunity going on right now as we kind of look at what is, it's like people are voicing what they need to voice. They're making choices, whether it be, by the things that they stand for or against, the products they buy, the people they vote for, those kinds of things. And I also think that the deeper opportunity is really to, look within ourselves. What does freedom actually mean within ourselves? What does ownership and sovereignty of our own energy mean for each one of us? How do we carry that out in the world? How do we express that when we vote, or when we choose a product, or when we stand up against 5G or something along those lines? I just find this fascinating, especially as we're coming so close to the end of a decade, and many more cycles, like you were saying, Sandie, than just this decade of information. It's almost like it's such a great reflective time to ask ourselves these questions. I mean, really, what does freedom mean for us? How can we own and honor the freedom of our own sovereignty? And how do we engage that sovereignty with other people's freedoms? I think, 2020 and beyond is, to me anyway, feels like that ownership, or at least the capacity to really step into that ownership, that sovereignty.
Yeah.
Funny, I was talking with a friend the other day about freedom when it comes to people doing things in the world. The ability that we now have through the internet to create things, and for many people to create something that is also employment for them, or a way of sustaining their life. And we were talking about a few of the things, and they were sharing that people they work with, they see a lot of imposter syndrome, a lot of am I good enough, a lot of what about and I see all the same things, and I also went through so many of those things to different levels at different times in my work. But I also, as we were talking about it, I just realized, I thought, God, even as recently as 15, 20 years ago, the world was not as free in terms of how we can all communicate with each other, how we can be aware of what's going on in the world, and also this rise of, I won't even call it entrepreneurship, because I don't think it just relates to people who are providing services or running businesses online. I think it also relates to groups organizing themselves online to stand for a cause. There are so many ways that the internet has brought the freedom to us, but we're still dealing with those old human templates that most of us grew up through, where we didn't have that kind of freedom. Everything was organized for us, and we were told this is where you go to do this. So interesting, just listening to you guys speak, I'm reminded that we're still burning off a lot of our conditioning around freedom or lack of freedom.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and really, I mean, we may feel that we haven't had much freedom, or we don't, or maybe with so many so-called actors, putting out fake news on social media, we don't have freedom there. But of course, we always have freedom, because we don't have to believe anything. We don't have to follow anything. We have the ability to research for ourselves if we're not sure about something. We always have the freedom to say yes or no.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sorry, I thought it was... Go ahead.
I was going to say, Alison said something, as we were ending our conversation yesterday about which way England was going to vote, and we briefly touched on the American election and the impeachment and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I said to Alison, so if Boris gets in, is that a good thing or a bad thing? And she reminded me of something we all need to remind ourselves now and then. She said, well, it's really up to us, isn't it? She said, it's what we want to make of it. And I thought, well, there you are. That's the bottom line.
Well, and that's the freedom too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the freedom to, or at least when we can, it's the freedom to choose what we're going to make out of anything, and I think that is a true freedom. That's a true freedom. That doesn't have anything to do with the things that are kind of thrown at us, so to speak, but how we respond or react to those. I think that's a different story. So getting lots of practice.
Yeah, and I also, it's funny as we're saying this, I'm just suddenly aware of people in the world or in situations or in cultures where freedom is heavily restricted for them or removed. And so it really reminds me that those of us who can say we do have a certain level of freedom in our life, or the freedom to say yes or no, or the freedom to choose differently. I say this without any heaviness, but it also kind of reminds me of the responsibility that those of us with that level of freedom have to continue to keep moving more deeply into it, not just for ourselves, but on behalf of everybody. Like to keep creating from within that the freedom of the structure that those of us who are in a freer structure have for everybody, because it's striking to me how many people have freedom that are afraid to take it. And I can look at myself in the same way in certain areas, but given I work with people all the time on steps they want to take in their life, it really shows you that those of us that have the privilege of a certain amount of freedom in our life, it's really important we don't waste it. And we actually do find ways to use it and create with it on behalf of those who are either in a place in their life or a physical or cultural situation where they don't have any freedom right now.
Very true. Very true. And I think one of the things that we also need to remember is, politics, polling days come and go, different parties get in, and then a few years later another party gets in. However we feel about some of these things, and there's always someone who's going to feel restricted and limited by them. And a lot of the astrology, with Saturn and Pluto points to some restriction and limitation awaiting us. But we mustn't forget that it also, those forces give us the opportunity to work at changing something in our own life, that has been restricting us or has outlived its usefulness, or, that we can slowly change as we move into the new energy.
Absolutely. I was talking to a friend not too long ago, and we were talking about this. I kept saying something about the patterns that I was noticing, playing out in my life. And he kept changing the word pattern to strategy. And, the fact that a lot of the strategies that we've had in our lifetimes are strategies that actually allowed us to get to this degree of awareness or freedom or choice or whatever you want to say. And those same strategies can either be dropped now or they can be used through a little different lens to move us forward. But I just like the fact that he kept changing it. No, it was a strategy, and if that strategy hadn't been used, we wouldn't actually be here today to have these kinds of conversations, and so the gift that those strategies provided us at the time that it did, and, what is the choice moving forward? So.
Yeah, it's just a switch in perspective. You're listening to What Is Going On's monthly Synchronize Your Energies show with me, Sandie Sedgbeer,
me, Lee Harris,
and me, Suzy Miller.
Stay tuned for another powerful energy integration process from Suzy, along with some last words from the three of us after this break.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Hello, I'm Lisa Berry. Join me every Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Light on Living. A chance to see new, hear different, and feel more as I shine the spotlight on all the ways to lighten the load of life's challenges. Light on Living is your link to that new way you're looking for, that new understanding that will enhance your life, and that positive connection that will support your growth. So join me, and you'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you.
Opiates has taken everything and everyone I've ever loved away from me. Everything.
I blew my ankle out and I got prescribed pain pills by my doctor.
If making my detox public is going to help somebody, I'm all for it. So I just wish I would have had a warning.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth. A message from Truth, the Ad Council, and ONDCP.
Welcome back. So before we go into your final process for us, Suzy, I'm really curious to know, as you two look back over the past year, where we were all at the beginning of it, where you're at now, if there's anything that you particularly want to share about that, any ahas, and also tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing next year.
You want to go?
Yeah, okay, I'll go. Well, what comes to mind for me, and, probably there's a million things we could say, but what hits me immediately is, for 2019, the fires that make you stronger. So the kinds of fires in life that burn you a little bit internally, burn some of the stuff around you, but that you come out calibrated for strength. And standing tall has been one of the themes that I've been called to lead in my work in the last two months. And I feel like so many of the experiences that, for example, that you talked about, Suzy, that you've been having recently, and some of the things I've been having, I definitely see learning how to stand tall and really hold the spine of your own soul in this world at this time, whether that involves speaking your truth, standing for truth, acting on behalf of truth. That's definitely, for me, what I'm going to take away from 2019. This was a year of learning to stand taller and stand truer. And in terms of 2020, on January the 20th, I'll be launching my brand new weekly podcast, which is called Impact the World. And
cool.
It will alternate week by week. 1 week I will do a short teaching for creatives, entrepreneurs, people who are here to bring wellness and light to the planet. And then on the alternate weeks, I will have interview guests. And Sandie Sedgbeer, you are one of those guests that we've already pre-taped. So, I'm excited about that. And also my Rebirth program, which I do every year. It's kind of a way of taking a new level of energetic strength with you into the year to come. And that starts on January the 7th, 2020. And the details can be found at rebirth2020.com.
Wow. Look forward to that, Lee. And can we all sign up somewhere to watch your podcasts?
Yes. If you go to my website, which is leeharrisenergy.com, and if you get my newsletter, we will be mailing out about it in the weeks leading up to when it begins. And it will always feature on my own newsletter. But because it's video as well as audio, you could also subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Lee Harris Energy at YouTube. And that way you won't miss any of the shows.
Cool. I'm going to sign up for that. I especially want to see what that Sandie Sedgbeer's got to say.
She was very fascinating. And we're going to have Suzy Miller at one point too. We're going to get Suzy Miller in that chair next year to see what she has to say for herself.
Suzy, what about you? What has this year done for you, and what have you got in mind for next year?
Yeah, I think for me, like I say, it was a very significant process of allowing my process, just allowing myself to be present with what was arising and to not skirt away from it. And like I was saying earlier, I definitely dipped into some pretty edgy places, throughout the year. And so I think what really takes with all of these different aspects of self, and I don't know, it's like, one, that capacity, but two, and that it is a capacity. It's a capacity for any of us to kind of, be present to the lighter and the darker sides of, the shadowy sides of our experience. So that I will definitely take away. And I think the other thing that I've always kind of believed, but that was so solidified in 2019 was this awareness that we are taken care of, that when we really choose to do our own, inner work or be present to our own process, it's like, I almost felt like there was a reward in doing that in an odd kind of way, and it wasn't like an external award. It was more like a reward. It was more like this feeling of being contained, this feeling of safety, of being cared for and nurtured. And like you were saying earlier, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is that us doing that for ourselves, or is that coming from an external source? So, but those I'll definitely take away. And as far as 2020, I think that's almost yet to be seen. What I do know is that I'm going to be starting to offer some weekly kind of energetic information and just giving people kind of just my own lens of, what's going to be going on through 2020 and on. And a lot of still private sessions, still group integration sessions like Avatar Energetics and those kinds of things, and also some other opportunities that are coming down the pike that are more in the background, I would say. There's a opportunity to create a university around helping people understand the energetic sensitivities of ourselves and newer populations. So there's a lot of different things coming down the pike, and so I'll just play with all of it and see what happens.
Good. Well,
I'm SuzyMiller.com. Yeah.
I'm especially pleased that you're going to start doing some regular broadcasts as well for us to all listen to, watch, hear what you've got to say, because I know you've got a lot of information. Yeah.
Yeah, great, Suzy.
Very cool. So, it's been really an interesting year of transition for me. You know, relocating back to the UK halfway through the year. So many new things, you know, old things, but getting used to them in a new way. Facing a number of things that have come up for me that are calling me to expose more of me. I mean, doing this show has been interesting because usually I'm behind the mic, I'm the one asking the questions, and I might throw in a few comments or personal asides here or there, but I don't normally reveal as much as I have revealed throughout this year. And that's been a great exercise for me because, you know, I can go through my I won't call it shy and retiring mode. I don't think I'm ever that, but I certainly can stand back a lot. And as you both know, I've struggled all year with a bit of a push me, pull you thing going on with a project that declared itself to me last year. And I kept saying, do I want to do it? Don't I want to do it? Do I? Don't I? And I finally capitulated and said, yes, this is mine to do. Yay. And that is the No Bullshit Spiritual Book Club, the No BS Spiritual Book Club, because I really feel that we are in a time where we don't have the time to mess around anymore. There is so much material appearing on the market, which is a great thing. Spirituality is going mainstream. That's a great thing. But with more choice also comes more confusion. And there's also a lot of regurgitated material, lightweight material, marshmallow spirituality coming out. And I get asked a lot to recommend books for people that have depth and can really help them on their path. And so the No BS Spiritual Book Club is a book club that has been launched. It was launched a couple of weeks ago. And it's not just about me sharing what I think are the most authentic books, because, you know, I'm just one person. But a big part of this club is inviting people like you two, who thank you for your contributions, and many other spiritual teachers and authors and speakers who I know and trust and are definitely authentic voices to share with us the 10 best books that helped them the most on their journey. And I think this can grow into a fabulous, repository of useful information for people who are saying, you know, I don't know what book to read next. I don't know where to turn for this or that. And they can come here and find it. So I'll give you some more details about that at the end. I don't want to talk too long because, Suzy, you've got a process to give us.
All right, let's see where we can go. So if everybody will just take a nice deep inhale and exhale, be present with yourself. Notice where you are in your body. And so the first thing that everybody's showing me is it's almost like there's this vibration. There's a vibration in the body. There's a vibration around the body. There's a lot of energy that is shifting and moving and changing. There's also a lot of information that's trying to work its way in, so to speak. It's like the bigger parts of ourselves are trying to make themselves known in our daily lives. And so it's feeling like a hum or like a vibration, a buzzing kind of sensation. And so let's just, hold on just a second. Let's just breathe into that experience. And everywhere where that information is, the buzz is really about this rubbing up against some of our old strategies or our old programming, patterning that maybe no longer serves us as we step into this new decade. Let's go ahead and collect up all of that information and that energy that just no longer serves. It's outdated, past its shelf life. Let's put all that information into a sphere out in front of us. And we'll put that blue star into the center of that sphere. And we'll spin all that energy out, all that information out. Compress and condense that energy back into that blue star. And let's drop that blue star right into our heart spaces, imploding it out throughout our fields multidimensionally. Let's just stabilize our fields. Right, so we kind of quiet some of that buzz, quiet some of that hum. And then the other side of that vibration, if you will, it's like, so fascinating what you're showing me. It's like that bigger self, that source self, that the one that takes us through this next decade and beyond. It's almost like it's sitting right there on the outside of our fields, literally waiting to come in. So we all have kind of like an inner presence or something that we identify with as, you know, as our source self or higher self, whatever you want to call that. But it literally looks like it's showing up on the outside of this sphere that we are. And I'm just going to suggest that we just start opening, just start breathing and opening up to receive these next iterations of ourselves. The next steps, the next levels of consciousness and awareness that go with those steps. Right? Just and allow it to come in 360 degrees. It's not just coming in from in front of you. It's coming from your masculine and feminine sides. It's coming from behind you. It's like all the gifts that we've been able to synthesize, everything that we've been able to come to, right? The awareness and the consciousness that we actually are. That's starting to breathe into our fields so that every step that we take, we're matched by the biggest version of ourselves along the way. We're matched by the sovereignty and the freedom to express whatever arises for the well-being of everyone. Yeah, okay. Okay. So let's make this matter. Here we go. Nice deep inhale and exhale, everybody. And then as you're starting to open your eyes, you're coming back into presence, just literally breathe this self into your experience of being human. Breathe these next steps into your experience of being human and the gift that you have to offer the world.
I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there, Suzy.
Thank
it really
you.
is.
Thank you.
Really is time to finish up. Okay, I just want to remind everybody that you can check out Lee's work, leeharrisenergy.com, SuzyMiller.com, and if you're interested in the No BS Spiritual Book Club, go to Sedgbeer.com and click on the Book Club tab. That's all from me, Sandie Sedgbeer.
From me, Lee Harris.
And from me, Suzy Miller.
Thanks for being with us.